So, Devon, why hurdles? Why not just 100 meter or 200 meter flat? What was it about hurdles?
You know what? I was a 100 and 200 meter runner up until I was in a junior in high school, so I was 16, 17, and I was actually a good one. I ran 1040, 1049, and 2075 in high school.
Wow.
So I wasn't I wasn't an elite sprinter.
Wow.
So I wouldn't say why hurdles. It was my coach was like, "Hey, you're already one of the best sprinters in the country. I think you could be a good hurdler. Let's try it." And I tried it, and then probably within 2-3 months, I was one of the best in the country of doing that. So we were like, "All right, this might be the thing." So that's just kind of how it works. Is a lot of athletes, and Ed, you might know this because you ran track. You might be an 800-meter runner, but maybe your event's the 5K, right? Like you might be a good 800-meter guy. You might run 154, 152, but maybe you're a 5K guy, right? Or vice versa. You run the 100, you're a 1080 guy, but maybe you're a 45-second 400-meter runner.
Yeah.
And you just don't know it. So, my coach in high school, Tim O'Neill, he was like, "Hey, the Arizona State is pretty weak in the hurdles. Let's give it a try." And within like 2 months of practice, I was number 2 in the state. And then the next year, my first meet, I broke the state record. So,
Wow.
it was quick.
So
I like to sprint.
Oh yeah, but when you decided to obviously go with the hurdles when it comes to being professional, did you ever think maybe I'll do 2 in 1, or was it like, no, I'm going to concentrate on hurdles?
It's a good question. So I still train like I'm going to run 100 or 200 eventually.
Yeah.
Although I don't do as much technical like block work, and I don't race as much because the 110s as a professional is how I make money, right? Like that's how I go to the meets. Yeah, exactly. That's how I make a living. But eventually my goal is to be a under 10-second 100-meter sprinter, under 20-second 200-meter sprinter. So maybe as I get more and more elite into the hurdles, right? If I start talking about a lot of 12.9s, maybe break the world record, maybe I can kind of transition into having a little bit more fun with the events that I do pick and choose. Because I do like doing all that stuff, and it's fun to compete against, the really elite guys. And in the U.S. especially, we have like probably 20 guys that run under 10 seconds, right? So very, very competitive.
Yeah, so I've got a big smile on my face because one of the things that I think stood out is just what you just mentioned about your aims for the 100 and 200, and I just find it fascinating. And I think the first thing that came to my mind is that you've got an elite mindset because you are an elite athlete in your sport already, in your discipline already, but equally you're looking already at another another event in 100 and 200 meters, and you are also aiming for very, very big feats. So I guess my next question to you is, where did you learn to, I guess, have a growth mindset? Where did you learn to aim so high?
Where I think that kind of goes back to just every sport I've played, being competitive for one, trying to win. Okay. So that's just the basics of, playing basketball and trying to score more points than the other team. When you get into a more individual sport, it becomes a little bit away from, you understand, like as you get older, and I started learning this in college, it's not so much the outcome at the meet that's going to that's important, but what you do in training, what you do in practice, how you prepare for a meet is almost equally as important for the mindset, in the sense that you can't fake it on the track. Right. I've had years, and this is the thing, I'm at the peak of my athletic prowess, right? From like 25 to 30 is where most men are just, athletic. Yeah. So right now I know physically that I'm going to be, one of the fastest, if not the fastest I'm going to be. And 2, I have done the training and have seen the checkpoints in training and practice I'm lifting the weights. I'm stronger than I've ever been. You know, I'm faster than I've ever been in training. So it gives me the confidence that I know I can do it on the track. Maybe it takes me a few races to do it, you know, but I know it's there. Just like I said, like I know physically I can run under 10, I can run under 20. I have the talent and the speed to do it. I just got to figure it out. Same thing with the hurdles. You know, that 1280 is there. I just got to put it together. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? So for that, that's the confidence thing is really important. And you can't fake it, you know, outside of training. I've had years where I've been kind of hurt and injured. And, you know, I go into the meet and I've had some meets where I'm like, oh man, I just don't got it. And like, that's a bad mindset. And obviously that's not where I'm trying to be, you know, as an athlete, but it does creep into your head. You can't fake it. There's like, you know, there's no doubt, there's no shortcuts to lining up saying, hey, I'm prepared, ready to run fast, as opposed to like, I don't really feel that good. This training block didn't go well. You know, I'm like 2/10 off, you know, what I should be in order to run 13:0. Like, you know, so that mindset definitely creeps in a lot of times. And that's what I'm learning as an elite athlete, trying to like, you know, kind of like trick myself into always being prepared, always being confident in my ability, even though I might not be there, you know, physically yet. I'll get there.
I think that's the same for all the best athletes. They have that type of mindset, because you're not going to go into a race thinking, oh no, look at all of these people, I'm going to lose and win the race. It's not going to happen like that. You have to always go in believing that you are going to win. Even if there's someone who's run a faster time, you have to have that mindset. And I guess all the elite athletes have that.
Yeah, and I've always, you know, my most like kind of like surprising national championship win when I was 19 in 2014, winning NCAAs and then also winning USA's 2 weeks later, kind of coming from nowhere. You know, as a freshman in college, and people ask me like, oh, like, you know, this guy just came from nowhere, randomly won. Yeah, I came from nowhere on paper, but mentally I was already there, right? Like I knew like when I was on the line, I was gonna win the race. You know, maybe I just hadn't run, you know, a tenth or as fast as everybody else, you know, had run already, but I knew my build up coming into it, how I felt in training the last 3 months. And everything like that I was ready to run fast, and then that if I'm on the line feeling healthy, I'm gonna win. And like you said, so that's just kind of the thing that most, if you ask any elite athlete, they're gonna be like, hey, I'm here, I'm gonna win.
One of the things I've often heard is that winning your first title is the most difficult. Would you say that was the same for you?
Yeah, as of now, 100%. I think, you know, not that my competition has gotten any slower, it actually has gotten faster. With you know, some of the younger guys, Grant Holloway and Daniel Roberts, and then some of the kids in college that are coming up as well. And that's how it's always going to be, right? I was a kid in college at one point. Yeah. But yeah, my first title, like I said, you know, David Oliver, Jason Richardson, those guys that have won Olympic medals, world championships, have run 1280, you know, and run 1290 and all that stuff. Definitely one of my favorite wins, just because, you know, the field was so strong and, you know, I wasn't expected to win. And then once I did that, every U.S. championship I've shown up to, you know, I expected to win.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm still that way. I mean, I don't think I actually haven't placed worse than third in the U.S. championship ever. You know, in 2017, I came off of a foot injury, like, you know, 4 weeks actually before USA. So, you know, luckily I made the team. And then last year in 2021, obviously, I mean, the Olympic trials is one of the most like nerve-wracking events you can be in. And, you know, ran a quick race and got second and, you know, made the team again. So it's good.
How did it feel around the Olympic trials? Because when we watch the US trials in the TV here, we see how it's basically like the Olympics to qualify for the Olympics. So how was that experience for you? And then how was that experience being at the Olympics where there was no crowd?
Mm-hmm. You know, the big thing I started to realize about these world qualifiers and Olympic qualifiers, so like the U.S. Championships that qualify you for the U.S. team, because that's the ultimate goal, right? There's a lot of pressure and stress on all the athletes, right? Because there's only 32 that make the meet, right? And then, you kind of dwindle down, 32 to 16 to 8. One thing I heard, and I hope one day that I talk to Alan Johnson about this, but Alan Johnson was, a very, very, very elite hurdler, probably one of the best in history.
Yeah.
Two-time Olympic, or three-time Olympian, Olympic gold medalist, world champs a whole bunch of times. And I heard that somebody told he was nervous about Olympic trials. And somebody asked him, like, hey, Alan, when was the last time you got fourth in anything? Fourth place in any race? And he was like, you know what? You're right. Because, right, to make the team, you got to be top 3. So a lot of times that mindset, obviously I want to win. I'm going there to compete to win. But I'm not putting so much pressure on myself that I'm going to fall apart because top 3 make the team.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal. And sometimes, it's the qualifier. So yeah, I want to win every race. I would love to win the Olympic trials and every event I compete in, but to qualify is most important. So it kind of takes, knocks a little bit of pressure off because, hey, third is first is what I say at those meets because, you make the team, that's your ultimate goal. And then now your goal is to win world champs or win the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I am intrigued about that thought process because our last guest, Chris Bernard, triple jumper, he spoke about almost having to be in peak condition at the US trials, and then a few weeks later when you go into the Olympics you also have to be in peak condition. And now you mentioning you just have to be in the top 3. It kind of throws me off because yes, you have to be in the top 3, but let's have it right here. The US trials is an Olympic final. You being anything less than 95%, you ain't finishing in the top 5, let alone the top 3. So I'm really, really intrigued how you can have a mindset where, the top 3 is okay, but equally push yourself where you won't miss out, because you watch sometimes, because I've seen Olympics where people or sprinters have slowed down so much they've ended up not qualifying for the next round. And it's almost like, how do you have that mindset where, how do you find that balance in that mindset where top 3 is fine, but equally you need to push yourself to an extent where you don't relax too much? How have you found that balance? What methods have you used?
I think let me quickly clarify. The top 3 thing isn't so much that you have to back off. You're backing off. It's not you only need to be top 3.
Yeah.
For me, the mindset is, hey, I'm in the I'm here. I know I'm good enough, right? I'm in the race. I can win. I'm talented enough to win. I should win. But if something goes wrong, don't panic. That's the mindset, really, right? Like, hey, don't tighten up. Don't do, especially in the hurdles, right? If you hit a hurdle, crazy, you're out. You get last.
Yeah.
So that's the mindset. I want to clarify.
Okay.
It's not necessarily top 3 is okay.
It
is that something goes wrong. If you feel 95% today, maybe that's okay. Because your goal is still past here. But like you said, like Chris, and I'm good friends with Chris. It is one of the hardest meets in the world. It's probably a second to the world champs or the Olympic Games. And some athletes, right? Like realistically, let's just say the hurdles. If your PB is 13:30. Unless you run a PB, you're not going to make the team.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing in the 100, right? Like you watch the Olympic trials for the US in the 100. If you didn't run 9.8, you don't have a chance. And even 9.8 you didn't make the 100. You made the 4x1, but 9.89 didn't even make the 100 going into, and 9.80 won the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get what I'm saying? So
it's
so competitive. Obviously, you got to be ready to go, locked, laser focused. But to some extent, you don't want to stress so much because of the stage that you fall apart. And sometimes you see, sometimes athletes don't perform as well or don't perform, just well in general. depending on whatever meet it is, what's going on, maybe small nagging injuries. You have to run rounds and all that stuff as well. So it definitely is. The mental part of it's tough. It was super hot this last year in Oregon. It was like 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Every day as well. So that can play a part into like especially distance athletes trying to run fast. Like that's a nightmare. But yeah, it's very so competitive. There's a lot of stress around it. Obviously, there's a lot of implications on how people make a living. Yeah. Right. Like if you make the Olympic team versus you don't make the Olympic team, that could change the next 3 years of your earning ability.
Wow.
Right. So, and that's just the real, the name of the game with our sport right now, which kind of sucks, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it on earning ability, because we've spoken to a few athletes, and the pressure in terms of just qualifying, because you want to qualify and you want to win the Olympics, want to win the Worlds, but then also if you don't qualify, the implications that could have in terms of sponsorship, in terms of how much you're going to get paid, and then even races. If you don't run a certain amount of races, then you're not going to get paid a certain amount. How do you deal with that pressure mentally?
You know what? I think, and I've evolved in the last 5 years as a professional. Initially, I put too much stress on it. Right? Like, I go from a broke college kid to now making a living and earning good money running track.
Yeah.
And I was not stressing about the money, but I wouldn't say in golf, but I was concentrated too much on the earning of capabilities rather than focusing on my training, having fun, and then the rest would follow. Right. And then it actually, until this year, going into a new Olympic cycle, getting new contracts and stuff like that, where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to even worry about it. If I don't make any money, whatever. My goal is to, get healthy, make the Olympic team, win the Olympics, and have fun. And this year is my best year ever, right? I broke into the 12s this year. I ended up world number 1 ranked hurdler in the world, and this was a year that I kind of just forgot. I didn't make as much money, that I was in the years past, but sometimes it's important to make a living, but it's not important in the scheme of having that elite athlete mindset, because that's not going to change. The mindset's not going to change whether you're earning $20 million or $20.
So I'm just going to make an assumption, and then probably an ignorant assumption. So when I think of elite athletes like yourself who are sponsored, my assumption would be in the early stages of, sponsorship, there is a lot of pressure. So you have your media obligations, but then there is even some of your everyday pressures where maybe the athlete's thinking, should I even go to this place? Is it really that bad where you're even thinking about, should you be seen here? Or is that just, an outside ignorance?
Like seen here as in like going out partying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think you're right in making that assumption. Obviously there's a time and place for all of that. It wouldn't look very good if, I'm posting stories of me in Las Vegas at a club 2 weeks before the Olympics and then I don't make it out of the first round. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But vice versa. I've seen where people, when I was in college, and that's more of a thing in college anyways, is, athletes going out and doing whatever and 2 weeks later winning a national championship. So, and that's not saying going out or, having fun is good or bad. It's obviously everything's in moderation is okay. But there is a lot more pressure as a professional to take it more seriously. I would say as a professional now, I take it more seriously. Yeah. Like training wise, nutrition, sleep, diet, taking care of my body in general, that I did in college. College, I just kind of showed up and it was good enough.
It's the thing, the older we get, the more we have to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. So when it comes to that nutrition, how much do you think your nutrition has changed over the past few years? And do you see the massive difference it's had on your performance?
My nutrition has evolved over the last like 5 or 6 years. When I got to college, it was pretty much just very, very basic in the sense of not eating super bad, but not eating really healthy either. And then the nutritionist at U of O kind of helped shape my habits. And then I had some nutrition help from Brianne Eaton, who's a heptathlete, Ashton Eaton's wife, and she is doing some nutrition coaching and some help overall because those two athletes, Ashton and Brianne, are very elite in their own sense, Olympic and world medalists. And so I got some advice from them, when I was young about nutrition and dieting and stuff like that, and the mindset of, you're going to drive yourself crazy if you try to diet, the whole season, right? You can only do it in like a 4 or 6 week block, where you're really trying to cut up and be race weight, and peak competition weight for 4 weeks to 6 weeks, because if you do it for longer than that, you're going to start getting hurt, injuries are going to happen. You're going to start feeling cranky and irritable and stuff like that. And then overall, just my habits in general have gotten better because as you get older, you understand the importance of nutrition and how it affects not just how you feel and your weight, but also how you sleep, which is most important for recovery and stuff like that. I just noticed, when I eat well, I feel better going to bed. I'm not as hungry. I wake up in the morning. I have normal bowel movements and all that stuff throughout the day. It's the same thing every day. My routine is so similar that my training goes really well. So it really is a positive impact on how I train and how I feel, which is most important.
Would you say that the average Joe who's trying to get themselves fit should adopt something similar to yourself, where they should work in maybe periods of hardcore, maybe for 3 to 4 weeks, and then just lay off for maybe a week or so?
It really depends on their type of lifestyle, because I would say if you look at my normal day of eating anyways, you'd be like, oh, this guy's already on a diet in the sense of everything that I eat is already very nutritious.
Yeah,
right. I eat the same thing pretty much every day. Although it's a large breakfast meal, it's a lot of protein, eggs, spinach, potatoes, some kind of chicken, sausage, turkey, bacon, whatever meat source, a lot of fruit, a lot of water, and then for lunch I'll have some turkey, chicken, veggies, and some carbohydrates, and then for dinner it's pretty similar, fish, red meat, whatever, very similar to where you're like, oh, this guy's super locked in the sense that my daily habits are pretty healthy in general anyways. Okay. Although I last night I had some mint chocolate chip ice cream and stuff like that. not that big a deal.
Yeah, cool.
But I think the overall the big picture nutrition wise is going to be super important that you have a good base, right? A good base, and then 4 weeks I really lock it in to where I'm cutting out all refined sugar, refined carbohydrates, and really trying to get feeling good, getting light, cutting out all the fat and stuff like that. But 4 to 6 weeks is hard anyways. 4 weeks is a long time too, but yeah, I would say maybe not for the normal person. They can just evolve into a better lifestyle.
Okay, yeah.
How do you mentally deal with injuries?
That's a good question because I've had quite a few in my career. It's some major ones. I had 2 ACL reconstructions. One in 2015, one in 2016. And then I had some other work done, to clean up my knee, clean up my hip, in the last few years as well. And I think the biggest thing, my first major surgery is super difficult, but I had a great athletic training staff at U of O, and a lot of physical therapists, outside of that helped me, get back. But it did take a long time mentally. It took me about 1.5 years to start to feel normal. And then once I did that, I had the confidence to okay, I've done it. I ended up getting hurt again. I was like, well, I've done it already. I got back. I made the Olympic team. I won the Olympic trials. I could do it. So now I just have to do the same thing over again. And I had the formula. So initially it was hard, but I think there's so many success stories, for the normal person, somebody that has a knee, ACL reconstruction. Like a lot of kids reach out to me, say, "Hey, just tore my ACL. Like I'm pretty sad," which is okay. Like that's a stage of coping, is having grief and being sad about it. But just know, right? There's like plenty of athletes that are on the highest level of the game that have done the same thing, and they're fine, right? And yeah, I'm fine. Tom Brady's had an ACL, he's fine. Like there's a lot of success stories, so not to stress too much and to have a positive outlook on, being able to recover.
Again, so one thing I've picked up, again, it's about you and your elite mindset. So one of your ACL reconstructions was in 2016, but in 2016 you got to the final in Rio. So having a reconstruction, but yet getting to an Olympic final in the same year says a lot about you and your mindset. So can you just talk to us a little bit about how you rebuilt that confidence?
Yeah, I think really the biggest thing is having the assumption that you're going to be fine. And that's tough, especially early on, like the first 3 months when you can't do anything. You're not even, you're on crutches for the first 5 weeks because I had my meniscus repaired, and then the next like 8 weeks I'm doing not much, because I can't run yet. I'm just relearning how to walk and stuff like that. And then once you get to the gist of everything, you start feeling better, and then you just got to have that confidence that you still have the ability to be an elite level athlete. And I think that there's a big I really attribute that to the athletic training staff. One of the main athletic trainers, Stephanie, that worked with me, she was very persistent on my first ACL reconstruction. What I mean by that is she would be up texting me at 6 a.m. like, "Hey, come in today." Maybe on my day off, right? So, "Hey, come in today." And maybe we don't do a lot, but like it gave me the mindset like, "Hey, I need to be doing something every day to improve." Maybe it's not the most ever, but it's a little bit every day to improve, whether that's just range of motion, whether that's better diet so that I sleep better, that I recover better from the day before and stuff like that. So, and then once I got into the track, my coach, Jamie Cook, did a really good job of just making me feel confident that, hey, you look just as good as you did before. So, that's a help as well.
Yeah.
One thing that you mentioned, which is fundamental to all athletes, is confidence. So confidence is obviously one of the main attributes that you have, but what else do you think you have which makes you compete at the elite mindset?
That's a good question. Biggest things that make elite athletes is just obviously the initial athletic ability and talent. I would say I've seen a lot of good athletes with a lot of talent too. And even at this level, everybody in the Olympic final could very well be Olympic champion, right? That's just how it goes in most every event. And then secondly, I think just the sacrifice that it takes in general to accomplish your goals, right? Like I see a lot of my friends and stuff doing stuff, throughout the year that I would love to do. I have some buddies that went up to Colorado and went skiing this weekend, and they go, to Bermuda and Bali for the summer and just enjoy the sun, and doing all this stuff. And pretty much the whole year round, other than maybe like a month or two, I'm kind of in training mode. I'm focused on training. I'm focused on, being an elite. I moved to Maryland, where it's snowing, in order to be with my coach, which I think will give me the best chance of being the best athlete I can be. So, a lot of sacrifice goes into that as well because, I miss my family. I miss my friends. I got my dog with me. He's sleeping over here in the corner. I have a Great Dane, but that's about it. It's just me and him, and just focus on the goal that, I made for myself, probably 10 years ago. And yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing. Sacrifice, obviously the initial talent and confidence is probably the most important thing, because if you don't have confidence, you can't fake it. You can't fake the ability to go out there and perform.
Okay. I was rewatching a number of your races, and one of the races that stood out for me was your semi-final race in Rio. And one of the things that stands out for me for you when it comes to yourself as a runner is your last 30 meters. You have all the athletes. You've got one of the strongest finishes out of everyone in your event. So my question to you is: has that always been your strongest point, or have you developed that over the years?
Actually, yeah. So that has been my strongest point. That's been one of my most, like, going back to the confidence. I'm most confident that if I'm in the race with the last 3 hurdles left, that I have a very, very good chance to win.
Yeah.
And that's good. And that's just kind of like my natural ability and something I've always been good at. And then, that's going to give me the opportunity to focus on some other stuff, focus on my start, focus on the first half of the first bits of the race as well. And, that has kind of been putting the two together has kind of helped me accomplish running 12:9 because, in that race I had a good start and a good finish and just kind of put a good race together overall. And yeah.
This is my last question to you. So in terms of reaching the next level, you can do it in the mind. Mm-hmm. What else do you think you need to add to your mindset that will push you to that next level?
That's a good question. I think the biggest change for me, the biggest change for me in the last 2 years has been, in 2019 and 2020, I didn't run quite as fast as I wanted to, just for a lot of reasons, injuries, stuff like that. And I did lose a lot of confidence in myself. And, that's one of the hardest things to come back from, which is one of the reasons why I made the change. And I'm now back with my college coach because, I had a lot of success. Every year that I was healthy, 2014, 2016, and 2017 in college, I ran 13:1 or faster. 2 of those years I won the U.S. championship. And all those years I made a championship team. So going back to that, I was like, hey, this has always worked. Let's go back to that, have a little bit of faith and confidence in that. I was telling my coach the other day, and his son was there, we were talking about training and coaching. Is like, his name's Jamie Cook. I was like, Jamie could tell me to run 10 miles today. Maybe I know as an athlete that doesn't fit into my training program, but I have utmost confidence in the program itself, and he has never steered me wrong any other way. So I'll do it. Anything he's telling me, right, I could do. So that's the biggest thing, I think. The change, in the last year and a half, 2 years from moving out to Maryland to be with Jamie is, having complete confidence in the training program, having complete confidence that I'm going to be ready when it matters. I was really antsy this season, coming up after running 12:9. I was like, hey, when's training start? He was like, hey, relax. We're going to start December 1st. December 1st is going to be our first day. Don't worry about it. We'll get you right. And in my head, I was like, man, that's a lot of rest. That's a lot of time off. But, so far it's been good. I'm really healthy. I feel good. So maybe 2 months, 2 months off was what I needed, So that's the biggest thing is complete confidence in the program, the training, and then also knowing, physically that my body can do it. 12:8 is there, 12:7 is there. I just got to put it together, right? Whether that be, fixing the first part of my race, being clean, being a little bit faster, but it's definitely doable. I just got to get the opportunity to do it. And, I feel like that's going to happen.